back for another edition of Six Rings and Football Things, and we are hitting our regular season stride, heading into week 2. Patriots host Dolphins, Sunday Night Football, Gillette Stadium, and we will preview in part that game with our buddy from weei.com, Mike Kadlick. Michael, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
So that means you're back. I'm back. This must be Kadlick's crucial clashes. I'm going to get it down.
So you wrote it.
Clashes.
You wrote it out on our Slack channel earlier, and it was just Kadlick's clashes, and I think that made a little bit more sense. Take out the crucial.
Okay, maybe
it rolls off the tongue a little bit. We're
work in progress. Much like the Patriots' offensive line, we're far from perfect, and we're a work in progress.
Far from perfect.
Figuring it out on the fly. Six Rings and Football Things is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Before we jump into your clashes, I do have to get your reaction. I know you did a solo emergency podcast on the Six Rings podcast feed, but what is worse than worst case scenario? Because I think everybody thought the opener against the Eagles, when you find out that you have no Cole Strange, no Mike Onwenu, and you have Calvin Anderson starting his first game after being on NFI all summer, like maybe that was the worst case scenario. A week later, Trent Brown has a concussion. City So, coming off his first start, has a concussion. You still have Strange and Onwenu dealing with their things. David Andrews is banged up. He's limited in practice. Suddenly, the only guy you have is Calvin Anderson, the guy who, 2 weeks ago was talking to you guys sort of ominously about how serious his NFI issue was. And like at some point, he'll talk about what the hell is going on out there, as Vince Lombardi would say.
It's crazy. And you're right, because Sunday, when the inactives come out, the press box is like, oh my God, what is going to happen? Like no both starting guards. You're putting 2 rookies into the spotlight. And on the whole, they actually were fine. Like the entire line on Sunday was fine. Mac only got sacked twice. They schemed it up so that the ball was coming out of his hands quick. And even when he did have to drop back, they held up against one of the best pass rushers in football. We talked about it on this show last week, how big of a matchup that was going to be with that front. And we were including Strange and Onwenu in the picture. So and so they don't play. The rookies perform well, and it's like, all right, you might have something here. There's some promise. And then yesterday, Brown and So go out with the concussions, and I talked about it on the emergency pod yesterday. But last season, 7 Patriots players entered concussion protocol at some point during the season. None of the 7 played the following week, so that is not good for Trent Brown and City So.
Wow. That's a Kadlick's nugget. I know there's no alliteration, but that's a
I believe
nugget.
I would like to credit, I believe, Mark Daniels from Mass Live, who originally had that on Twitter.
Screw Mark Daniels.
Nugget. We'll roll with it. So that's Kadlick's nugget on Kadlick's crucial clashes
via Mark Daniels.
Yes, exactly. Credit Mass Live, but so it's not looking good for the offensive line yet again, and it's only week 2.
So I have these. I generally, when we think we know, we learn we don't know kind of theories that we go through. Like opening day, we thought we knew, you'll have Strange and Onwenu, but they'll probably have to rotate. And then boom, you don't have Strange and Onwenu. You have So and Mafi. So this week, I think everybody's like, we're porked, no Strange, no Onwenu. Now, so I wonder if this week we get Strange and Onwenu and they get out there at least rotationally. And then the flip side of that is, everybody thought you were absolutely porked on opening day against the Eagles because of the line. You weren't. They were competitive. They were probably good enough to win. And now I feel like everybody's like, well, they were fine on opening day. They'll figure it out. They'll be fine this week. And I feel like we could be in for an absolute jailbreak poop show.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's not good. And again, it's week 2. So it's not like you're dealing with this like makeshift offensive line towards the end of the season and just getting yourself through the regular season. Like this is setting up to be the entire year. And the offensive line is one of those things where you need consistency and you need 5 guys running their process and understanding checks and calls and who's doing what, double teams and sync, like all that stuff that you practice in practice every single day. It's just as much a relationship thing as it is like skills on the field. So the fact that you're going to probably put out another all different 5 this week and then another different 5 the next week, like it's no good.
And we should just mention quickly before we move on to Kadlick's crucial clashes that
we need some audio on that.
We need like a sound or whatever they call it. Yeah. We should mention that Tyrone Wheatley Jr. and Vidarian Lowe probably in the mix this week
Yeah.
for some playing time. Another week where you'll have maybe multiple guys making their Patriots debut. In Wheatley's case, I believe NFL regular season debut, like So and Mafi did last week. So the names,
It's crazy.
one, I'm trying to be silver lining, Andy. The one silver lining I pull is what we've talked about. It's been an issue all spring, all summer, House of Cards, and they have had to kind of scramble and give other guys reps and move guys around a little bit and do different things. And maybe there's some benefit of that they don't. If they were a 5-guy unit that had practiced all spring and summer together and then it fell apart, maybe that would be worse than the fact that they're a unit that has been scrambling from
they're
day
used
one
to it
in
at this
training
point,
camp.
maybe.
That's
Look
trying
at that.
to put a positive spin on it. I'm not sure I really buy
what have
what
me
I'm
and
selling,
Fitzy done
but
to you?
just trying to do
done to you?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's get into it. It is available on weei.com. If people like to read these things a little bit more in depth with quotes and written analysis, Cadlick's crucial clashes week 2, Miami Dolphins, Gillette Stadium Sunday night.
I'm
Where do we
starting
start?
with Mac Jones versus Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio.
Ooh, the old quarterback versus coordinator.
So Fangio's
matchup.
thing on defense is this like too high safety shell that basically can spin into just about anything post snap. They move the guys around. Sometimes it ends up being man. Sometimes it ends up being zone. You got blitzes, fake blitzes, guys, selling it and then dropping back and dropping into different types of coverage. So they spin the dial like crazy on defense. He did it in Chicago. He did it in Denver. He's really done it all over the place wherever he's been. And this is funny. This 65-year-old defensive coordinator who was a trash can of a head coach in Denver is a heck of a guy who can call a defense. And that really puts pressure on the quarterback to understand and watch film and figure out, what these guys are doing pre-snap and what these guys are doing post-snap to find the answers to the test. So that's sort of what Fangio's like mojo is as a coordinator.
And Fangio's a guy that even in Denver, as you said, not a good head coach, but the defense was good. Remember they were always in games, close games, tight, and then it would fall apart at the end. 100%. He would make a weird decision, clock management, field goals, all kinds of things. Belichick said he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. Mac raved about him and this defense in general, talking about how, from one week to the next, everybody was talking about the Eagles, but Dolphins are just as good. Now, I will say Dolphins gave up 230-something yards rushing on the ground, 5.9 yards per carry. But I want to piggyback off this matchup. Mac's certainly a huge part of it. And the offensive line we just talked about, giving Mac the time or the comfort to make mental decisions and not just be thinking, oh, crap, I'm porked, jailbreak, I got to get out of here kind of stuff. But also the idea that you have this Billy O'Brien, Vic Fangio matchup with two guys that I think are very well respected, but are in new places with new personnel. And you're probably in that feeling out process of what the Patriots offense is going to be, what the Dolphins defense is going to be under Fangio. You're kind of blending history and their track records. So I think that's a byproduct or an additional matchup here is Fangio O'Brien. Cause I thought on the whole, I would say Billy O'Brien had a nice opening week. I thought they did some really good things. I know there was some hiccups. Now, he didn't throw the interception. He didn't fumble the ball. Some of the early issues weren't really on his scheme necessarily.
But I think that with the O'Brien scheme on Sunday, there were times that I wrote about it post game, and it was sort of one of my positives was how they continued to rotate personnel, and you saw every tight end and every back and every receiver within the first drive. But there were times where that kind of bit them in the ass too, because they were running and they would have momentum, and then they would take a guy who just had 3 catches on a drive out of the game because they're fixated on this, rotation, and it kind of screwed them a few times.
Right. Yeah, and so I think that's an interesting matchup, the Fangio defense. I also think we're in the midst of overreaction period in the NFL. My guess is the Patriots running game, not as bad as it was on Sunday. My guess is the Dolphins run defense, not as bad as it was on Sunday. Because right there on paper, you're like, well, this is an obvious bounce back game for the Patriots run game. And it should be. You should be able to run the ball. Well, we got the offensive line.
But you see what just happened with them against LA. It's okay, there's got to be a happy medium there.
Yeah, I mean, Ramondre Stevenson has to run the ball better this week. He just has to. I know he contributed in the run after catch passing game. on Sunday against the Eagles, but I think he has to run it better. Okay, so Mac Jones coming off sneaky, I think, positive momentum, at least in the public eye. I think people are higher on Mac Jones this week than they were a week ago, and than they were any time last year, probably, with a matchup against a solid defense with a decent pass rush, some veterans in the secondary, and Vic Fangio doing whatever he's going to do. So I like
to kind of close that out. It's like Mac's whole thing is his brain, and he can understand and diagnose what a defense is doing. But can he really do it against, you know, a Fangio defense that, you know, has all this twists and turns in it? That's the part that I'm kind of interested to see, is how he reacts to, you know, those types of things.
Okay, I like it. So Cadlick's crucial clash number 2.
So we're still on the offense, but it's a more involved one, I guess. And I don't think these two guys are going to be matched up against each other every single play, because the way Fangio runs his defense, you know, he'll flip corners back and forth. They'll run a zone, they run man. But it's Kendrick Bourne and it's Xavian Howard, the cornerback for the Dolphins, because and as I wrote about on weei.com, these two guys have sort of been thrown into their wide receiver 1, cornerback 1 positions, respectively, really over the last, like, you know, couple weeks to couple months, because the Dolphins bring in Jalen Ramsey, and then he goes out for 4 games on IR. So Howard now turns back into, you know, their guy, their number 1 corner. And Kendrick Bourne really was thought of as like the number 3 receiver for the Patriots all throughout spring and summer. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, you know, turns into a dud. I don't know if his knee's actually going to explode, but he didn't look great on Sunday. And then Devontae Parker was out, and he's still nursing injury. So ipso facto, Kendrick Bourne ends up as their leading receiver, 2 touchdowns on Sunday, and he looks really damn good. So when these,
who told you?
Yeah, I was next on my point. Andy Hart, the Triple Crown. Yep.
If we prorate his numbers right now, who'd win in the Triple Crown for the Patriots? And I'm taking my victory lap while I can after week 1.
I think if I remember the box score correctly, he was tied for receptions with Ramondre, and he was tied for yards with Henry. So, but he's there.
Yes.
He would.
Yes.
Exactly. And he had the 2 touchdowns, so we'll give it to him. So both those guys, you know.
And if he caught the ball better, he would have had more catches. Yeah. He actually had a few drops, because he had, I want to say his 6 catches came on 11 targets. He wasn't the most efficient of the receivers, with the interception sort of a outlier based on the throw and the conditions.
So these two guys
there, but yeah, I'm taking my victory lap.
These two guys, high expectations on the both of them. I'm curious to see when they do play against each other, how it sort of, you know, pans out.
And for all of, I think, Kendrick Bourne's strengths, and I think he's a good receiver who has an opportunity to have a great season, maybe needed for the Patriots in the passing attack and Mac. Sometimes balls thrown in his direction end up intercepted. We certainly saw that on Sunday. And Xavian Howard is one of the best ball hawks in the NFL. The ball seems to find his hands, and when it finds his hands, he hauls it in. Boatload of interceptions in his career. And to me, you know, keep it simple, stupid football analysis. You lost last week because you turned the ball over, right? You gave them points. You ended up losing by 5 points. You don't give up any of those points. You probably win the game. Your best receiver, their best corner, ball hawk, Mac, the whole thing. You talk about maybe some pressure, maybe a hurried throw, a harried throw here or there. So, yeah, I think it's certainly a significant matchup. It's not to say the Patriots passing game now flows through Kendrick Bourne, or you have like the Bourne ratio where you're going to get him his 10 targets a game. There's nothing of that, because I still think this offense is probably going to ebb and flow week to week. And maybe this is a Juju week, maybe because I'm not done with Juju Smith-Schuster. I was never that high on him anyway. I think he's going to be Devontae Parker. I think there's going to be games where you're like, oh, he really helped us win today. But I don't think it'll be week in and week out. So he could be the guy on any given day. And certainly the tight ends are still going to get their targets.
Yeah, Hunter Henry looked awesome. He was awesome on Sunday. So
tremendous. I have to say, from July, whatever day we started out there, July 20, he's the best Patriot. He's the most consistent best Patriot. From day one of practice, throughout practice, everything. He's been healthy. He's been out there. He's been catching the ball.
Named
everything
team
has
captain
been good.
as well.
Even that team captain, leadership, and energy. I think he brings a pretty. He's not Kendrick Bourne high, but he's also there's no low. I feel like Henry is kind of positive and consistently positive, almost in the face of.
He reminds me of like what Jawan Bentley is on defense.
Yeah, and I'd say they're probably Henry's a better player, but they're similar players in that their upside
Right.
is not Travis Kelce and freaking,
Yeah.
Mike Singletary. Like, they're good players at their positions that will help you win football games and probably will rarely lead
Correct.
you to lose football games.
Yeah.
They're kind of in that middle tier of good players. Okay. So Kendrick, Bourne, Xavian, Howard, interesting matchup from a Patriots perspective. Does Bourne continue to roll and kind of
Right.
establish himself, or is he a decoy?
Or is he a roller coaster?
Whatever happens,
he could
there,
go for
I think
0
could be
catches this week, like the same thing we saw last year.
he absolutely. So we will see. Okay, Cadlick's critical clash number three.
Other side of the ball. It's probably the most important one, and it's going to be the most important matchup that any team who plays the Dolphins is going to have to face, and it's Tyreek Hill versus Jonathan Jones. Tyreek Hill is insane, incredible. There's no way of stopping him. But what the Patriots have done is mitigated that ever since he's been sort of come on the scene with Kansas City. And the way they do it is with Jonathan Jones. And Jonathan Jones, he's not the best cornerback in the league. He has, he's never like we're talking about with Xavian Howard, he's not leading the league in interceptions, and he's not out there, banging heads every single week, but he's been consistent here, and he's been consistent on Tyreek Hill. And the way they've done it generally is he's sort of one-on-one with Hill because he can run with him, and then they have some safety help over the top. That was always Devin McCourty, so I'll be interested to see what they use this time. Jabril Peppers led the Patriots in free safety snaps on Sunday, so I'll be interested to see if Jones and Peppers can kind of mitigate that with Hill. But the other wrinkle to this thing, and it's sort of how they are using Tyreek Hill last year versus this year, and it's fascinating to me, and it's so simple. Talking about keep it simple, stupid football, that I'm surprised not more teams do this. Maybe they do, and it's just not as effective because it's with Tyreek Hill. But they're using this now. It's like a short motion. Last year they put him all the way across the formation, but now they're literally just 3 seconds before the ball is snapped, they're getting Tyreek Hill on a jog and getting him in motion, and he's just already like up to speed running down the sideline. And they've done it just about every single play. They're using him in motion every single play.
You're right. It seems overly simple.
It's like Canadian football. Jonathan Jones
again,
alluded it to like Canadian football.
Absolutely. I saw a lot of references to Canadian football in motion, and a lot of the stuff I saw was almost like basically wheel routes. The only route he runs is basically a wheel route. It's just out of some motion at the snap where you're chasing or reacting.
He's already up to speed.
And
I think it's awesome.
love it. Absolutely. Well, he's not only the fastest player in the league, I think he's the quickest. I swear somehow step one, he's running a 4.240. It's like he does not build up speed at all. And just watching, some of the cut-ups and the highlights that were making their rounds on social media, everyone, they change it just enough. Like, it's the same basic thing. It's almost like, they tell you to hit a baseball. It doesn't matter what you're doing, moving around, you have a pump or you lift it. But as long as you load, everybody gets to the same position right at the pitch. He is doing all this crazy stuff, but it basically is the same thing when the ball is snapped. And it's challenging. Again, he's great. You start with he's great. Forget the motion, forget this. He's a great player, a great talent, a unique talent. Tua is doing a good job of getting him the ball, not missing opportunities. That's another part of this. If he's open, make sure you get it to him. I know he had over 200 yards last week. Both of them actually had 19 plus yards per catch. All of the Dolphins receivers, from what I saw, except one, averaged over 14 yards a catch, I believe. Like, they were making plays in the passing game. Obviously, the quarterback ended up with fourth most in the history of opening day, 466
Quick shout out to Tua. Tua looks really good.
It's challenging.
I give Tua a lot of crap.
He does.
But when he's healthy and when he's out there, he's accurate. He can throw the deep ball. 100%. They make it easy for him.
That's part of it. He's
able to deliver.
Right. And I mean, the quarterbacks in this game, I think, are very similar. I personally don't believe either is elite. I think they're middling quarterbacks who, when you give them a good scheme, a good coordinator, and good weapons, they will take full advantage of it. And when you don't, you're challenged because they can't do it on their own. They're not enough to lift the offense and just kind of get on my back, boys. I'll take you to the promised land. Not who they are. But the thing I do find funny is this. Jonathan Jones, this reminds me a little bit, and you may not remember this because he's Jonathan Jones better overall player, but Grant Williams defending Giannis, and everybody's like, he defends Giannis better than anybody in the NBA. And it's like, does Jonathan Jones really cover Tyreek Hill better than anybody in the National Football League? And this isn't meant to be disrespected Jonathan Jones, but like, so why isn't he the best corner? If he can cover the best receiver or one of the top 5 receivers in football better than anybody, why isn't Jonathan Jones the best receiver in the best cornerback?
No, it's a good
football?
point. And
like,
I was actually talking to Taylor Kyles from CLNS Media the other day about this matchup, and he was kind of like, yeah, it's there, and the numbers aren't always there, but there are times where Tyreek is open against Jonathan Jones. They just don't they just don't get him the ball every single time. So be interested to see how that,
and that's a factor always. And also your perception, like going back to the offensive line. I thought the offensive line was good and competitive on opening day. If that had been my 5-man starting unit, I think I would have graded them differently. But I graded them on the curve of rookie making his NFL debut, rookie making his NFL debut, right tackle who's never played a snap for me in game action. And I would say the same thing for Jonathan Jones. If I were paying him $100 million and his name was Sauce Gardner or Darrelle Revis or whatever, I would have different expectations. But when he goes out there and competes at a really high level with a guy who's probably a superior player and talent, then you feel good about the matchup later. And the basic thing is don't let him kill you. Okay, Tyreek might get his 8 for 96 or whatever. Don't have a 47-yard touchdown in there. Don't have a game-changing big play in there. Hell, last year it wasn't Tyreek, but the big play they gave up when Duggar and Bentley couldn't make the tackle. Like, you can't – the GTFB – you won't lose because of a 20-yard play. You might lose because of a 60, 70, or 80-yard play that finds them dancing in the end zone. So I love this matchup. I think it's fun. I hope we get enough of it, But the flip side of that is what I wanted to ask. Like, so are they going strict man coverage, and then he just has to chase him all over the field? I mean, that's the like, how do you make sure Jonathan Jones is in that matchup?
You kind of probably switch it up every once in a while, but I mean, Tyreek Hill's going to beat his zone every single play because you got guys like your defenders aren't up to speed when you're in zone because you're just kind of waiting for a guy to come at you, and then Tyreek's going to boop, boop, see ya. So like, it's hard to play. When I started the matchup and I said it's impossible to defend, you just started laughing because we're talking about a matchup and how you defend it. It's kind of like that because, you have him in man and he's going to beat you, and you have him in zone and he's going to beat you. So it's more so just the mitigation of don't let him kill you. And whether it's in man, whether it's in zone, they'll probably throw a little bit of both at them. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge, I'd say, for this team overall against Tyreek Hill because he's just that damn good.
It is a challenge. It's a week 2 challenge of a team that I actually don't think is getting enough respect right now. I think the Miami Dolphins had one of the better wins in football last week, going to LA, beating a playoff contending, talented Chargers team in a shootout. They're kind of flying under the radar because everything else going on in the AFC East with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen, even the Patriots going toe-to-toe with the Eagles. The whole thing, I think the Miami Dolphins are a good football team, and I think this is a challenge. Tua against the Patriots has been avantage Miami in recent years. Like,
he's never lost.
Never lost, right? That's Mac has not beaten Tua, his old buddy, and we get another Oklahoma matchup. I know you've been wanting to talk to Mac about that. Mac's not been wanting to talk to you about that. He just likes to, I don't actually play the quarterback, me against the defense, that whole thing. So let's boil it down. Sunday night football, all the eyes of the NFL will be there. Patriots offensive line situation will probably go down to the wire, probably be 100%. Some game time decisions, 90-minute inactives blended in there. They're at home for the second straight week. They fought the good fight against the Eagles, and yet they're 0-1, but people feel good about it somehow.
Moral victories, what are we doing?
No. Moral victories. It's still September and a tough schedule. You might want to start picking up some real victories. So Mike Cadlick's crucial catches leads into Mike Cadlick's game prediction. What do we see on Sunday night?
Victories. We're going into a full victory Monday for the Patriots. I'm going to go take the over betting-wise. I think the Patriots are going to score points just like the Chargers did. And I think the Patriots will have a little bit of an answer for this Tua and Tyreek Hill thing with the Jonathan Jones matchup, what have you. I go 28-27 Patriots. A tight one.
Ooh,
my prediction, like my bold prediction is a game-winning field goal from rookie Chad Ryland as time expires. Patriots win on Sunday Night Football.
Nice. A week after Bill
Yeah.
Belichick passed up a short field goal on 4th and 3, and sort of people were saying, oh, Ryland's like Gostowski, you're going to limit his opportunities early.
Yep.
Mike Kadlick predicting Chad Ryland, the rookie kicker.
I heard
with
on
the
Gresham
game-winning field
Fourier
goal
with
in
you
what
too.
would be
If they don't trust him to kick a 4th and 3 from the 20, there's bigger fish to fry here. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, what are we doing here? I mean, he's a kicker. You're not asking him
Right.
to do anything out of the normal other than his actual job that he's been
Yeah.
preparing for his entire life, and you drafted him for. So I like the storyline. I don't know if I agree with the prediction. For my prediction, people will have to tune into the regular Six Rings and Football Things preview with myself and Nick Fitzy Stevens elsewhere on the Six Rings feed. Be sure to rate, review, leave reviews for Kadlick's Crucial.
Yeah,
the name would be better if it was Cadillac. Cadillac. You'd have a sponsorship. It'd be much, yeah. Can we tweak your name?
Yeah.
Do you mind
Yeah,
changing
we got to
your
get
name just a
sales to
little
talk
bit?
about
Mike
Cadillac.
Cadillac's Crucial Clashes.
It's
I'm
okay.
struggling here at the end. Six Rings and Football Things is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And as I said, more Patriots, Dolphins preview elsewhere in the Six Rings feed. He's Mike Kadlick. Go click on his stories on weei.com. We love the clicks as well as the listens. And looking forward to a fun football on Sunday night.